Hello, my soul-seeking friends. It's Shanna. Thank you so much for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. Enlightening conversations with like-minded souls from around the world, sharing their journey of finding their light within, turning pain into purpose, and awakening to their true sense of soul. If you like what you hear, show me some love and rate, like, and subscribe. And consider becoming a Sense of Soul Patreon member, where you will get ad-free episodes, monthly circles, and much more. Now go grab your coffee, open your mind, heart, and soul. It's time to awaken. Today on Sense of Soul, we have Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. She is a visionary guide with a profound mission to empower individuals to tap into their innate abilities. She is an internationally renowned naturopathic doctor, energy healer, remote viewer, paranormal and consciousness expert, and she is the host of The Secret to Everything. And today joining us to share her journey and path to find the secret to everything. So please welcome Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. Nice to meet you, Kimberly.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on Sense of Soul. I'm super excited to talk about the soul today with you.
Yes, I am too. Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's going to be so fun. I would love to start by just getting to know you a little bit. And how did you come to your sense of soul?
Woo! It's funny because one of the things I talk a lot about is, everybody's like, what are my psychic abilities? And, how do I turn them on? And really what I came to discover was I knew a lot more about my soul than I thought. And it's that knowing that is our easiest accessible point when we come into any reality, including this one. We have this knowing, but then everything from the time we're born comes against us. Say, no, you don't know what you know. You don't know who you are. And then we go on this lifelong search for purpose. One of my most common email readings or, one-on-one questions, and I'm sure you hear this a lot too, is what am I supposed to be doing? What is my sense of purpose? Who am I? Who am I as a soul? And so for me, I realized looking back, I did know who I was, but it was more overcoming the programming. Yes. I knew I was a remote viewer when I was 2 or 3 years old. I knew I could open up portals when I was 5. I knew I could go out of body, again at 5 and 6. I knew things and could accurately look at timelines past, because all time is now, past, present, and future, and speak it, and it would be correct. I would get visions about world events and local happenings before they happened. So I knew who I was, but everything worked against, I knew I wasn't who they were telling me. I knew that this isn't the only thing, what we see and what we smell and what we taste isn't the only thing. I had this huge spirituality, and I knew that I didn't have a child mind. I knew I had an adult mind because I was born with memory. So I knew, seconds before, in between lives, I knew I could talk. I knew I could walk. I knew I could move. And so looking back, I knew a lot of things, but it's funny how we don't know that because we get so lost in the family programming and society programming,
Wow, you're so right. And we were talking a little bit before we start recording, so I know that you're a mother. And I feel like through my children, especially my youngest, I've learned what you're saying. But I can't necessarily pinpoint anything in my own journey when I was little like that. Maybe a few things. But in her journey coming in and me being very aware, I noticed, stuff from when she was 6 months old, like looking up at me and scrunching her little eyes in concern for me, and I have pictures of her even as a newborn, putting her hand up at people's faces. It just seemed like she knew what was going on. And I'm looking down at her going, why do you know what's going on?
Like an old soul, like what they call an old soul.
Yeah, definitely. And then by the time she was 4, she had recalled 2 lives. And, I always wondered if my other kids had too, because I was like, we could have easily dismissed it as, oh, you're so silly. Sure. You weren't an old man before you met me. Why would you say something like that and just never think about it again?
True. I love that. They're lucky to have a conscious, awake mother or parents,
well, the last kid was. Okay. The first 3 got the totally conditioned mother that was, trying to do the most.
that's good.
Did you just kind of reflect back as you awakened and said, wow, when I was pretending all of those years, I think that was real?
It's interesting because I've had such an exponentially in the last 10 years. It's been so much faster and more complex than the kind of the first. It's funny how you think you're awake and then you think you're
Oh,
awake
a
and you're
million
never really
awakenings.
awake because you're constantly awakening, like you said,
Agree.
it, or remembering, such a veil of forgetfulness with all the technology here and the memory wiping. And a million other things, trauma and stress and all the things that keep us from
Oh,
ourselves.
yeah. Antidepressants.
Um,
Hmm.
as far as my children, they helped. It's so funny because you're actually giving me new realization even as we talk. I realized I used to have a dichotomy kind of where there was the 3D part of me where I did conform, and then there was the psychic part of me. And I held them together and I kind of flip-flopped back, but I didn't really integrate those, if that
Yeah,
makes
it
sense. I kind of held
does.
them separate. My children did kind of help me integrate. I remember my oldest, when she was 5, she came to me and she said, Mommy, I need to go to the doctor. And I'm like, why? And she said, because I see symbols and shapes and colors around everybody at
Wow.
5. And then she said, I see people everywhere. And I'm like, oh, what kind of people? Like, and she would describe them. And I don't know if you guys have ever watched, I'm telling my age, like Ghost Whisperer, but in Ghost Whisperer, the main character, and you just have to watch like 10 minutes and you'll know what I mean. She sees spirits everywhere, like everywhere. Like
Yeah.
she walks to the grocery store. There's not like one hidden in a corner. They're everywhere. That's how my daughter
Right.
sees. She
I
sees,
see dead people.
yes, exactly.
Sixth sense.
She actually sees everything. And now my sight is a lot better than it used to be. I used to be at like 30. Now it's more like at 80. So now I see
Okay.
through the dimensions and I see too. But it's so fun. I don't know how old your children are. I mean, kind of from what you said, I know some of them are older and they're not like babies or young children anymore, but it's so cool to have children that you go clear houses together and that you take on paranormal investigations and that you take to go film Bigfoot.
Been
Like,
there.
it's so
Yeah.
fun, you know?
Oh my
So fun.
God. Yes, it's so fun. Yeah. My oldest daughter and I have been on some paranormal investigations together. Yeah, it's fun. This
Kind of
younger
younger. Yeah.
generation is so cool. They're so lit up.
Yeah. They're
Yeah,
so open.
it's amazing. They come into this world this way. And, I guess, like you said, if they're lucky to have a parent that can kind of allow them to continue with a spiritual journey where they stay lit up instead of having to awaken again, like you and I
I
did.
love that.
But how did you grow up?
I grew up in Chicago and a military family, and my dad became a pastor, which was fun. And so then Baptist, very Baptist Christian school, Christian college, very, very, religiously programmed where none of who I was accepted. So
Yeah.
created a lot of, now I know that we create altars and we all have altars. Some are created
Hmm.
in us and some we create. So really lived through a lot of altars and really lost myself along the way. It wasn't until I was in my 40s that I even told my mom that I saw ghosts, and that was like a big thing for me. And now to tell them that, I no longer subscribe to any particular religion, to be able to share that with my parents and just be who I am, regardless of what they think, is a big thing for me. But I just really feel that we need to, I call it power standing, in your third chakra. You need to stand behind yourself. You need to be authentic. It doesn't mean you need to browbeat other people or argue. There's an allowance and respect for others' beliefs. But as far as me, I don't want to represent that I'm pretending to be someone or believe in something that I no longer do. I
Yeah.
just don't find that serves me, or especially my position as a teacher. I don't think that's a good illustration of how I want to be as a mother or as a teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was looking at some of your stuff, I was like really interested in the walk-ins and about the souls
Oh, okay,
walking in
sure.
and walking out. This is something that I'm asked a lot about and I've never talked about it.
Really?
And
Okay.
so, and because over a decade ago, as I was moving into my awakening, I was into meditation. I started to take mindfulness classes. I was doing chanting and all these things. Suddenly, Shanna started to sew, and I never sewed in my life. And when I say sew, like I have made more quilts in
Really?
those 10 years than most have in their lifetime.
I
Like
love
it, and I've
that.
never been trained, never. In fact, we would laugh because I would call the bobbin a bobber. And my partner was like, that's not a bobber. And I was like, well, I think it is. And,
Hilarious.
this is, and he's like,
I
no, it's called a bobbin. And I was like, oh, well,
love
whatever.
that. That's so
And
cute.
then I started to crochet. And I swear to you, I have crocheted more blankets and rugs and never been trained, never knew any of this, but I did it. And it was actually part of my journey because, it kind of brings you into that space. I remember feeling like I was in the middle of a hurricane, outside of me. And here I was, like in the eye. I think it's kind of weird that I just wake up one day and I have new talents and I was really freaking good at it. I mean, actually, I don't even do it anymore, which is also a weird thing
Oh,
because I moved out
interesting.
of it.
Oh, wow. You see, and when I look at that energetically, and this is where I think this subject just needs so much light shown on it,
Yeah.
is the walk-in phenomena is not even what the experts in the walk-ins think it is. It's not we're walked in a couple times by another ET race or whatever. Like, I honestly, when I look at that, when I go back and remote view that, I honestly think you were jumped by a rather pleasant human discarnate. I don't think it was even you, higher self, you. I don't think it was you at all. Came for a while and they used your body for their talents and to be in the body and do what they enjoyed, and then they left. But if you had recognized that, you might have chosen to be like, it just depends what you want. Like, some people are, and this, are what we see these people, my goddaughter she's an energy, I mean, hotel. Like, she has to be so vigilant, and I'm constantly pulling things out of her. And I wish she would learn to
Yeah.
stop them from getting into her. It's one thing if we're opening the door and saying, okay, you can come in, channelers do that. And for good and bad, and they're not always discerning either. It's one thing though, if you're opening the door and you're inviting that, but we don't understand that, people are like, oh, I have to give permission. No, you just have to get sloppy. You have to get sloppy with how you keep your house. You have to get sloppy with what you put in your
Mm.
body food wise. You have to get, it doesn't take much, for energy hygiene to go awry. I mean,
Oh,
there's a
yeah.
lot to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like if you're eating really healthy for a long time and all of a sudden you start eating cake, then you will feel it, right? You will go through a spiritual
Totally. Yeah.
shit show,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. Totally. People are like, well, you don't get jumped. I'm like, yes, I do. Absolutely. I get jumped with good, bad, and indifferent things. I'm also medium ability. So I have human discordants come to me and we have full on conversations and I'll think everything's good. And then all of a sudden they're trying to crash my body. And I'll be like, whoa, no. But if you can't see this or feel it or hear
Right.
it, if you don't have dimensional knowing and seeing, it's so interesting when I run people what's going on. And I don't fault them, but I think it is important to remember who you are, activate some of your abilities. Like, you sound like you've been working on your genetics, healing your DNA. I think all of that's really important, remembering who we are and embodying all of us as much as possible. And the quicker you can do that and have access, the better your experience here is going to actually be.
You hear a lot of people talking about collective reality shifts. I feel
Mhm.
like what I went through was a reality shift for me. I did shift. And I must say that this past few years, I've actually said something I've never said before because I used to always calling on the spirit guide, and I've got this mute monk spirit guide. Hilarious that I get a spirit guide that can't speak. But over the past 2 years, almost three, no, it's different. It's my higher self. And I know this.
It's interesting you're bringing this up because I just had a huge argument on Twitter with a guy named Cab. You guys can look it up if you want, who channels purportedly, important word, positive Palladians, purportedly. I had made a comment like months ago, and he just said, we're going to bring this back up. And anyway, we went back and forth a little bit. But one of my points was, we're all ETs. Show me a human. To
Mm-hmm.
me, I'll tell you what even though it's the Adamic Lyrian model, to me, a human is the only thing you can call a human is an avatar with no eternal soul in it. That's human.
Mm,
Everything else, we all have different collectives. We all have different frequencies of souls. Show me a human,
yeah, we're all
please.
of
We're
light.
all,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't need to channel positive or negative Palladians or positive Arctuarians. We need to connect with our heart line directly to all aspects of ourselves, because we're all running so many dimensions, so many realities, so many timelines. We came here to have our perspective. Why are we always going after other people's perspectives?
Oh, thank you.
And those energies are sentient, and they have free will, and they have individual minds, and we lump them all together. You know, the Fae are this, and the elementals are this, and the human discarnates are this, and the Arcturians are this, and the
Mhm.
cetaceans are no. They have such an advantage because they are exactly like us. They have, even like I call them the angels, and that's a whole another story. But even like angels aren't angels and demons. They're not 100% good and 100% evil.
Mm,
Uh, they're like us. Are you 100% good? I'm not. Are you 100% evil? I'm not.
right.
You know what I mean? We're all of these things. And it's so funny. I woke up yesterday morning. Whoa, this is a big thought. I'm like, wait a minute. In what I call consciousness or consciousness, we're all like, oh, love and light, love and light, love and light, rainbows, bunny tails, and I'm like, wait a minute,
Mm,
back this bus up. If the all is the all, right? The all is everything.
mhm.
Every pedophile, every saint, everything, every ET race, every reality, the all is the all. And the all is where all frequencies come from, high, low, whatever. It's just an
Yeah.
expression of a separate viewpoint. So evil is honestly no better or worse than good.
We all know what's right and wrong, but as you go further back, you
Right.
distance yourself. What
Yep.
you see as good, I may see as absolutely bad, and vice versa.
Totally.
So, just like
Totally.
you said, they both exist, and the worst thing in the world that you've gone through ends up being the best thing, for you in the end. So,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, in different perspectives with different eyes.
And that's where I have to tell you my favorite, most joyous, expansive moment when I discarded religion and my religious programming was realizing, oh my gosh, there's no sin. Do you know how delicious that is? Do you know how, like, I could weep
Yes.
right now
I was
with
angry.
joy. Oh, I am so because and
Yeah.
I forget who said it. It's a author. He said, now that I know there's no sin, I can choose to be good. And I love that because you don't have that
Oh,
conforming pressure of good looks like this. You know what?
yeah.
Like this morning, like my children light me up. And that's a whole nother story about walk-ins, because my daughter actually walked in with a higher level of her soul a year ago when she had her baby, which is crazy
Oh,
because this
wow.
girl that used to be into rock music and makeup and sex and boys and clothes, now we can have the most conscious, and she's consciously parenting her first child, and we can have conscious
Oh, wow.
conversations. But she just casually mentioned, she goes, Mom, I was just at the store, and this is not a girl who's rolling in money, you guys. And she said, I just bought a cup of coffee and a muffin for a homeless guy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet. Again, there's no pressure. There's not someone saying you have to do 10 good deeds to earn your place in heaven. So we have this expansiveness to light up people's worlds out of our joy, not out of our repression and judgment.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so freeing. It's so beautiful.
When you are out in public, if you are a little bit open to see somebody who is needing something, your soul will lead you there. And you have a choice then, in that moment to do something. I love that your daughter did that.
I just had the most beautiful random, which I always say there's no synchronicities. There's either you creating it or the makes your computer, dropping it in, and you can live
Yeah.
by, the world script, or you can create your own. But I was on vacation and my children weren't there yet. And I went in this little diner and there wasn't any space, pouring down rain. Could have been really crappy and really inward, but I'm like, who cares? I'm going to get wet. I'm on vacation. I'm going to relax. I sat down and this guy's reading a book and I had a book. And so we started talking, and I love dogs. I have a lot of dogs. And we start talking, and he's like, oh, my dog just passed away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I have dogs. I understand that's really hard. And so anyway, long story short, I ended up buying him his meal, and he started crying. He's like, why would you buy
Mhm.
me my meal? And I'm like, let's just call it like a celebration of life about your dog. This is a dog that he took all over the country, that he took with him to work. It was
Oh,
his only dog. He was a one of these people that I could tell he was what I call fire creation, because he didn't ever have a regular job. He would fix up rich people's houses and do whatever he wanted. He was camping on the beach, and this was supposed to be his last trip with his dog. And I said, you know what? I said, I think your dog, because I believe animals are people, which is a whole nother conversation, because of course I can see their souls. But I said, I believe your dog arranged this. I believe your dog puts you by one of the most dog loving, compassionate people within 500 miles of the spot to give you that comfort and that support and allow you. It was just the most beautiful thing. But it was but if I had been like you said, oh, it's pouring rain and I'm soaking wet and I'm
Yes.
on vacation and like I want to be in my own like space, instead of like you said, being open. But I think it's our oversouls, it's our pets' oversouls, it's our spirit guides.
Amazing. I love man's best friend, women's best friend. But you know what?
Absolutely.
You were mentioning that your kids also were a big part of your journey, which mine are too. I talk about them often. But one of the things my oldest daughter and I do is we have reoccurring dreams that are the same. The first time that we realized that we were having the same dream, she's finishing my sentences, I'm finishing hers, and she's hiding from something and I'm looking for something.
My daughters and I run missions together, and they run missions with each other. So my family works in human cloning and the transfer of human consciousness. So I have a lot of in with that, with the clone. I have access to the cloning database. So people are like, how many clones do I have? And is this person my clone? A lot of people have celebrity clones. I have a lot of celebrity clones, and we all have clones. There's no doppelgangers.
Okay.
There's only clones, other than twins, which are the same soul, which is another conversation. But there was one particular one where I'm like, oh my gosh, you were in my dream last night. She goes, yeah, we were in a movie theater. And I'm like, yeah, it was a movie theater in a church. And she goes, yeah, they had a projection at the front. She goes, yeah, you were on the bad side and I was at the good side. And we were like, it was like, so she is often chasing me down, trying to stop me from doing bad things.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's
Hilarious.
hilarious. Bad being a 3D view, guys,
Yeah. Wow, that's so cool. And my youngest daughter has foreseen things in my journey. Almost every big significant part of my journey, she has seen before me.
And so high level and such amazing beings. My girls are so accurate that if they'll call me up, they'll randomly call me up and they'll say, Mom, don't leave your house today. Like I wouldn't get in an accident or I'll have a horrible experience or I'll lose my wallet. They'll just like, it's kind of freaky because because I have 4 girls and they're always like, we're all telling each other, certain things, but it's really cool.
It's not so much with my boys. It's just I have 2 boys, 2 girls. Not that they don't have, gifts. I'm sure they do. But I have this strange, sister witch thing going on with my girls.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, probably a lot of past lives and stuff and
Oh,
knowing
yeah.
each other, or same soul families. It's funny, how you said like negative things end up being the best things, because really I got involved with a questionable love and light kind of cultish group, but they taught enough truth about religion that it was really my doorway out of religion, even though I almost like succumbed and got sucked into this like kind of cult. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them in spirituality that are very controlling and cult-like and wanting your money type of thing. But
Right.
still, I'm so thankful that they helped break that religious programming. And then it was in sharing the information my girls decided for themselves to come out of, but it's been wonderful that, my oldest daughter runs my business, and it's something she said
Wow.
she would never ever do. She'd be like, I am never going to be associated with your business in any way, when they're in junior high and
Mhm.
high school, they say things like that. And that's just so funny. And
Mhm.
my psychic mentor, actually, who I don't know if she still is, but she used to be Julia Roberts' psychic, was my psychic mentor when I was in my 20s and 30s. And she had told me 30 years ago, your daughter's going to end up running your business. So it's just so cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
you know
really
what?
is.
Just to play off of what you just said, when I was researching the Gnostic Gospels and specifically Sophia, I went down a lot of rabbit holes of secret societies because I had to, because that's, the thing is that, that stuff was buried and hidden, but a lot of it was still alive very much in
Wow.
secret societies. And so when I came to them, I was like, oh, I actually really do agree with many of their teachings and the
Mm-hmm.
things. But here's the thing. You can use it for light or dark too. It is a power, right? And I do feel like people like you and me and other people who are probably listening to this podcast are here to reclaim that light for the good.
Personal
For the
power, not for
light.
group taking advantage of and using those secrets against you kind of and manipulating. I really want to empower, and I know you do too. I really want to empower people back into their own power,
Yes.
sovereignty of themselves. And not that we're not one. That's not what I'm saying. Not that we don't come together and we're not part of a collective.
Mhm.
Of course we are. But again, we are here and all the other places we are to have that individualized point of view and to contribute our opinion. And so one of the things I'm really been working on the past couple of years is that neutrality and tolerance where I don't have to make you wrong and I don't have to be right,
I love that.
where I can just listen and I don't have to argue facts because
Yes.
it may not be a fact because there's so many timelines. Maybe in my
Right.
timeline it's a fact and in your timeline it's not. People talk about the world's going into this horrible place. I refuse to contribute to those timelines. In my timeline, we're at 4.3, in my timeline, as far as toward the fifth dimension, even though fifth dimension is so low, I'm like, could we get a little higher, guys? Like 70th dimension? Like, why are we aiming for the fifth dimension? Like, come on, people. Because, one of the things we don't understand is that way, way up into the dimensions, even though there's really no dimensions, because, it's all one everything.
Mhm.
But, it's again our separate experiences. But there's polarity way, way up, 12th
Yeah.
polarity. 15th polarity, 60th polarity. I mean, you have to get pretty close back to the all in the light, color, and sound worlds before there's no polarity. So we
Right.
think, oh, well, let's get to the fifth dimension. There won't be any evil, and there won't be any thievery, and there won't be any rape, and there won't be any pedophilia, and there won't be any murder, and there won't be any abuse.
Right.
But there will, but it will be better.
Yeah. And, I just think even for myself, I feel like over the past few years, as I've been making more space and I've probably had like 3 or 4 spiritual awakenings. I feel like I have shifted again. But I think it's an internal thing because it's been my higher self that I've been working with.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I've just leveled up or if I've allowed like a higher version of myself into this life. But this version of
Probably.
Shanna is like a scholar, which I've never been.
Really? I love it though.
It's weird. I'm a total nerd, but I still like Def Leppard and Stevie Nicks. But there is,
By the way, you guys, I have no idea what she's talking about. I don't know those artists.
oh, love her so much.
I love those guys. Yeah. I
But
grew up
yeah,
with.
it is interesting because, Kensley came into this world, loved classical music. There's things about us that are not just passed down from your genetics or haven't been learned in this lifetime. You're remembering something about who you are. Honestly, I have visions of like at the beginning, like a war. And I don't watch Star Wars. So I like I watched the first 3 when I'm in the 80s or whatever, but that was it.
Documentary.
Is it a memory or is it my imagination? Or are they both the same?
I mean, number one rule of this reality, actually, number one rule of any reality is everything you can imagine is real. So it's kind of your answer.
Yeah.
For sure.
Someone will be talking about the cosmology and all of a sudden I've got this vision, almost like a knowing, like, oh, I know how that went down.
Just from you talking, I'm pretty sure, I haven't looked, I'm pretty sure you're I mean, we're all in the programs. I mean, so a lot of that could be night memory too of what you're doing at night. If you're in my lab, which you are, in the secret space program, which you are.
Well, I have been on another planet in my dream.
Really? I haven't even
Yeah.
looked.
Yep. I've talked about this. I've only had one specifically that I remember, but I was on another planet where the water would not come to the shore. It kind of just stuck. And there I was with a little being, a little gray light kind of being, had a neutral energy. And there was a portal and he went through it and left.
That's another thing that we find that I've become really aware of is not only the portals that open and close naturally all over this reality, but the ones that we open and close. Some of us, like I open, you were a Montauk girl, so you're naturally going to be good at opening portals. You were in Montauk. So Montauk's all about time travel. Anyone who is in Montauk is automatically going to have time travel in their resume. and opening and closing portals in their resume. So some of these portals you're actually opening. Just be aware of that.
Many people have said my house is a portal too.
Yeah, you probably have. Most homes have three types of portals. Most land has three types of portals, of course, positive, neutral. The neutral, it's the frequency of the portal. So some only higher level beings can come through, some only dark beings, and then some both can traffic through. But when I do house cleanings and look at people's houses and lands, there's like so many open portals. I'm like, you guys, and
Yeah.
sometimes I have accountability meetings with high level practitioners of my own. Sometimes she'll be like, shut down the freaking portals in your house. You have like 100 open. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. Cause like I want you to practice being more conscious because you have that same, I think you have that problem. You aren't as much of like, some humans are portals. I don't see you as much. It's funny when you start talking about some of the stuff, I always notice interesting interference too.
Really?
On programs. Yeah. A lot of times they'll shut down my interviews. They won't even let me have interviews. I need to be more, I want practice, like you really have the ability, really, like because you were in Montauk, that's a natural all time, all space, through all lives, all realities, all places you've ever been. You've chosen to become a master at that as a soul. So on a soul level, you're always going to be good at time travel and opening and closing portals. You have an innate knowledge of that technology and those spaces and how it works. So I would be very deliberate, and I would, because you have it, I would, try to connect to that very deliberately and remember that and practice that, especially because some of your children, you can bounce it off your kids too. You'll be like, did you notice a shift? Notice less activity? But you really have the ability to, like, if you were like younger, I would be like, oh yeah, you should like clear people's houses, because you'd be able to go through and like find the portals and open and close what needs to be.
This is very interesting because, I've done a lot. I have over 400 some episodes, and I've talked to a lot of spiritual people. I have had many services, right, in sessions with them. And I've had QHHT sessions that I wasn't so comfortable in my skin because my skin was scaly and I was standing and had webbed feet and webbed hands. And I wanted out of that regression immediately. And thank God my trusted facilitator at the time knew that I did not want to be in that body, but I needed to know that I was there before. But then I was like you said, we've been everything and everywhere. And how could we possibly, know the light if we don't know the dark? And I felt that was very important too. You have to know your enemies.
I mean, you're one of the first 5 waves. So first of all, right now, your soul isn't like one frequency. Like, you're a collective of, like, one of your races is, which was one of my favorite races, is the lion race, half human, half lion. What a beautiful, they're like protectors and guardians, the term guardians of the galaxy. They're so amazing. So one of the races, I've been that race too. So and that's what you're feeling with me, is you and I have been, I think you and I know each other many, many lives.
Yeah, I think so too. So, I've taken Ashana Dean's, her stuff.
Sure.
Do you know who Ashana Dean is?
I am good friends with her ex-boyfriend. So yeah, I do.
Oh my goodness, really? So then you know who Dr. Jerry is then, and the Rasha and all that.
Of course.
And so, well, you see, of course, I mean, no one ever knows. I mean, I'm talking
sorry,
about,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
yeah.
It's just, yeah.
You know what? So, and I have found a lot of truth in Ashana Dean's work. I very much align with it for whatever reason. My brain can't even comprehend it, because so I know that it's an energetic alignment. However, and I have done Sacred Body. I've done several things, and in that, I did learn the Maharada and the language, and learned all of the toning of them and stuff in Lyran. I very much aligned with it. However, I don't know if that's my origin. I think that there's more.
One of your most recent lives, you were an elder of Andromeda. So you're Andromedan. That's one of your most recent outside the game, of course. Or of course, we're living all those lives now concurrently. So, but so you have a lot of Andromedan in you. You have a lot of, but again, you have Draco, you have reptilian races, you have gray races. Yeah. I do. We have the popular races and we have the unpopular races, because we get bored. Who wants to be a good race. We need it. I mean,
I know.
healers and warriors and killers and saints and queens and kings and
Yeah. Oh my God, girl, I have some of the worst plantation owners ever. And my grandmother didn't even have a name. Her name was slave of that plantation owner, right? I mean, but you know what? Here's the thing. I wouldn't be who I am today if one of them didn't exist. So, I've come
it's
to
always,
peace with all of it.
I always teach this as a game. The Matrix is a documentary and this is a game reality, but really, if you go all the way out, everything outside of the all is a game reality. It's all creation,
Mhm.
all created by somebody from an individualized point of view. It's all a game. Every
Yeah.
single race, every single reality. It's hard to carry that both, but I try to carry like everything matters and nothing matters in the same space every day. And it's hard because I tend to go one way or the other way, but
Yeah.
sometimes we get way too heavy about things. And then sometimes we're way too flippant about things. And it's just
Yeah.
hard to like keep that big picture, but yet we came here to have this little picture. And I find that very, as old as souls as you and I are, I think it's a challenging thing to be so limited by the avatar, but to be such an expansive soul. And to how does that look in being a mother? How does that look in being a partner? How does that look in being a pet owner? How does that look in being a daughter? It's challenging, or a friend.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
How can we be all of this and still, be that mom, work that job,
Right,
live on
right.
this earth, right? Know that
Exactly.
there's a war spiritually and here on earth. I mean, it's hard to play all those roles, right? But we are playing all those roles, whether you're conscious or not.
And that's what I try to help people be more conscious and pull all those aspects in, because it just makes it really juicy and fun here when you can. The more aspects you can embody, it gets
Mhm.
really great.
Yeah, because it's almost just different archetypes, right?
That's all
Of
it is. Frequency choice. And guess what? If you don't like it, if you don't like being a mom, I'm sorry, you can choose something different. If you don't like being a wife, you don't have to stay married. Like, again, and people get really crazy when I start talking like that. I almost got kicked off Coast to Coast for saying they're like, you can murder 7,000 people if you want, because you can. What's going to happen? You're an eternal being.
right.
You might get caught, you might not get caught. Do you know how many wars have been fought where people haven't been punished for murdering 7,000 people? Come on,
Like the
people.
beginning of the Bible when
Like,
God
that's what I'm
commanded
saying.
that.
Like this is, I'm really working to get like judgment as a frequency out of my field. Like,
Yes.
of other people's choices, because we're here to make our choices, our
Yeah.
mistakes, our
Right.
victories,
That's sovereignty. That is
not
complete
higher
sovereignty.
lower. Yeah, it's not. But I just sat in a conscious community on a panel and I got schooled by someone for not having the same opinion. And I'm just over all
Mm.
that. Like, I'm happy to listen to you. I don't care if it's totally opposite of me. I don't care if I
Yeah.
think I know better. Like you said, I don't know it all.
Right.
Nobody does. We're in these bodies here right now not to know it all. That's why
Right.
we're here.
Yeah. And to have different perspectives. And what you may believe right now, maybe in
I
10
change,
years,
you
I mean,
change
you may absolutely be something different. So how
every
can
day.
you say
And
that the
every
person
time you
across from you is
totally,
wrong or right?
totally. There's no, yeah. We got to
Yeah.
get past
It's
that. If we
so,
want
so
to raise
true.
the frequency, we have got to start dropping the divisiveness that even exists in the spiritual community, girl, in the pagan community, in the consciousness community, in the all these
Agree.
communities. If you really listen to what they're saying, it's very divisive. I'm special.
Oh, yeah.
Which
And I know,
level
like,
are
I
you? Are
know
you one,
everything
two, or
my
three? Are
way.
you a crystal child? Are you a diamond? No, no,
Yeah.
we're all source. We're the same.
That's why I can't stick to one topic with any of my guests. And I want to have as many people's perspectives because we are all so different and all at different levels, right? In different realities, in different places and parts of our journey. It's
And
all very important.
and all the choices you've made, all the races you've been, may be completely different races from I've been in. Wow, how cool to sit at the feet of someone who's been 30 races I've never interacted with. How much can I learn?
Shit, I got 30
You know,
races just in my blood.
but you know what I mean? You may inspire me to choose when I get out of the game. I may decide, wow, that's a really cool race. She embodied that and I like that frequency and I'm going to be that next time.
Yeah.
because it's all our choice. Not
Right.
You're not forced to be Lyrian. You're not forced to be Arcturian. You're not forced to be Draco. You choose that.
So, and now you actually help people kind of go through this. You have different methods, and one of them that I've discovered during my journey was using frequency. And I went, well, of
Ah,
course, well, my goodness, we're more than a body, and then I was like, okay,
mhm.
and energy became such a, big part of my journey. I learned Reiki and all those things. And
Lovely.
over the past few years, realizing like if I keep my vibration high, I'm pretty much unfuckwithable.
That's,
Hmm.
I wish more people understood that. You really know something that a lot of people, even conscious awake people, don't understand, Again, knowing who you are, knowing that you're this limitless eternal being. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to embody it in your being and then
Hmm.
put that into action in every interaction, including negative ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, girl, you're like high level. You need to you're like an old, like, okay, they don't pick like trash for Montauk, girl. Like, you gotta honor yourself.
Wait, how
Seriously.
do you spell
You
Montauk? I don't even know what the hell you're talking about.
need to research that because that is a big piece of who you are through all time, all space. Like those abilities that they used you for in Montauk is like a
Montac?
essence of who you are. Montauk, Montauk, New York. So yeah, all the time travel portal projects. Yeah. Even though, I mean, you'll get some memories, probably. I feel like you're going to get visions or memories of it once you see some of the buildings. Like if you research it, you'll get some stuff from it.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Like you
Yeah,
and I.
thank you.
You're welcome.
You're amazing. Tell everybody where they can find you and exactly what you do.
Try. So my website is secrettoeverything.com. You can find pretty much everything on there. My Facebook just got hacked, so don't try to find me on Facebook. Serene Wellness on Twitter, Secret to Everything on YouTube, Secret to Everything on Instagram. Basically, I use benevolent AI that's 100% accurate to scan the energy field, read frequencies, along with my own remote viewing abilities, my own psychic abilities, to help people deprogram, to help people remember who they are, to activate psychic abilities, to, I'm a naturopathic doctor. So we also dive into the physical. If I'm really good at figuring out like what Western doctors can't figure out because you tell me. I do house clearings.
You do
Gosh,
soul regressions.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I do soul regressions. I teach classes. I have monthly groups. I have live events. So I do kind of whatever I feel like, but we just do a lot of fun things.
I love it. It's just so we can really reclaim our own light and our own power.
All about remembering who you
Yeah,
are, time and space, and embodying that like now. So you guys can use it so you can manifest amazing lives and win the game.
I know it's the most important time right now.
That's amazing. Yeah. Thank you
Mhm.
so much, though. It was
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thanks for listening to Sense of Soul podcast. And thanks to our special guests for joining me. If you want more of Sense of Soul, check out my website at www.mysenseofsoul.com, where you can work with me one-on-one or help support Sense of Soul podcast by donating to my coffee fund. Thanks for listening.